It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a rainy Thursday night across the state of South Carolina. Good time to be indoors, tuned into your radio and listening to Sports Talk as we come to you tonight from the road. We are in Surfside Beach. We're at Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar, part of our Palmetto Pigskin Preview Tour. And tonight we're previewing Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, their homecoming game this weekend against Appalachian State. A big Sun Belt Conference tilt. Coastal Carolina, if you haven't been paying attention, having a good year and trying to get to a winning record on the season and continue to show the improvement as they've taken that step up in FBS football with Joe Moglia. We'll have the coordinators on the offensive and defensive side with us. Basketball coach Cliff Ellis is going to come by. They've got a big event tonight at the HTC Center. It's sort of their tip-off event with the season coming up right around the corner. Matt Hogue, the athletics director, will be here as well. So it's all things teal in our second hour tonight here on Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut and Will Pelagic here, and Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in Columbia.
That's the closest thing I had to teal.
It's pretty close.
Not exactly full teal.
You would pass as a Chanticleer fan.
I would.
I think in that.
Can you spell it?
Chanticleer?
Yes.
Chanticleer. Chants.
Yeah, I know we were supposed to say that in the promo. You need to be able to spell Chanticleer in order to do this program. So
absolutely.
There you go.
I mean, a lot of people say Chanticleer. It's the Chants.
No.
Chant.
I mean,
which is
the mascot is Chauncey, isn't he? Not?
Yeah. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't know the history because the school was part of the University of South Carolina system.
Yes.
And then it broke away and became its own university. And the Chanticleer is a rooster, much like a gamecock is a rooster or a bird or whatever you want to call it. So there's a connection there, but it is a school that around the state, if you haven't come down here and seen what they have done at Coastal Carolina, both in terms of their athletic facilities and their academic side, it is amazing.
It's amazing that the growth and the fact that They basically built themselves. They're a self-made man, basically. They're a self-made program. They were able to kind of start from the ground up. A lot of that was fueled by what they did in baseball, and obviously the national championship was born as a result of that. But even the commitment to football now, especially going into the Sun Belt Conference in their second year, I know that the first year without Joe Moglia there, it was kind of a perfect storm of things for them, not having him there for that first year, and that certainly led to some setbacks. But, they're 4-6 right now. They're not necessarily where they want to be overall, but they're getting there, and they're certainly at least on the rise, and certainly Moglia's presence with this program is a big part of that.
Well, he has brought a lot of, shall we say, moxie to the program because of his business acumen, his background in leading major corporations, and he has applied that in a lot of ways to his football program. He is a different type of football coach. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be out there having you bang heads for 2 hours a day in practice. He doesn't believe in that. He has no rules in his program except one, and it goes by the acronym BAM, be a man. He says anything that relates to being a man and acting like a man, however he perceives that, you follow that particular rule and you're going to be okay. But you step outside that, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he doesn't have like curfew rules and things like that because he expects his players to behave like gentlemen and men and live life the right way.
He's a guy you would run through the wall for. He's a player's coach in every sense of the word, and obviously there are consequences for those who don't follow or who don't adhere to kind of the lack of rules. It's a very unique way to approach it, and I think it takes a mature type of athlete to be able to play here and to be able to have success here. And they got a big game this weekend against Appy State.
Yeah, they're 5-3. They're 2-2 in the Sun Belt. Appalachian is 5-2, 3-1 in the Sun Belt. Appalachian had climbed in the top 25. Then they lose to Georgia Southern.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Southern's having a great year. Coastal plays Georgia Southern later on. But here is a chance for Coastal Carolina in just its second season of FBS football to really make a name for itself and see if they can play with some of the big boys in their conference.
And I mischaracterized the record. 5-3. They sit currently.
5-3. They got off to kind of a slow start.
Yes.
They picked it up here of late, and they've been playing some good football. Had a good win the other day up at UMass. And here's the thing about Coastal this year: this will only be their third home game. Here it is, November. And they've only played 3 home games. They played UAB back on September 8th, and they won. They played Louisiana Monroe October 13th at home and lost. And now they're playing their third home game.
They were supposed to have that game against Campbell at home, but they had to move that up to Bowie's Creek because of the hurricane.
Right, exactly. So they have truly been road warriors. In fact, they had that period of time that you referred to when they went to Campbell. They never came home. I think they stayed down in Jacksonville for a long time. Then they went to Louisiana. Then they went to Troy, and they finally were able to come back home once things cleared up and the campus was straightened up.
Fortunate to have that open day, too, on October the 6th, to just kind of get everything reorganized and readjusted.
So we look ahead to this weekend, South Carolina at Ole Miss and Louisville at Clemson, looking ahead to those games and other games around the state. Pro, as we look at where things stand in our Pick'em Challenge, the bad boy this past week, Alan Smothers, he gets the crown. He went 5-0 last week.
Did he?
You go 5-0, you move up in the standings. So he is tied with the lead with Pro and with the money coach, Fran Halloran, at 27-18 Pro. So you got some company there up in the penthouse.
Well, he wouldn't have if Kentucky would have, catch a pass right at the end of the game and Missouri decides not to get a first down in the second half. So some strange things have happened in order for us to be tied.
Yeah. I had a 2-3 week. I'm 24-21. Will, a 3-2 week. You are, let's see, you're still in last at 18-27.
Yeah.
In fact, you have separated yourself pretty well from the pack.
If I'm going to be good at something, I'm going to be good at stinking. How about that?
Well, you're 2 games behind Kev Cohen, who's 20-25, though he had a 4-1 week last week.
Someone has to set the pace.
So we're looking at USC Ole Miss. It's right now a pick'em. So if it's a pick'em right now, South Carolina going to Ole Miss. They haven't had a lot of success in the few times they've been to Ole Miss. Remember one game they won there, I think they won with a field goal in the final minutes. But this is an Ole Miss team that can score a lot of points. You just wonder if South Carolina's defense can give the offense enough stops to give the offense a chance to put enough points on the board.
I'm going to do something that you probably don't expect me to do. I'm going all in with South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to win, and I don't really think it's going to be that close. I really don't. I think Ole Miss's defense is largely absent. I think that Ole Miss's offense is largely overrated because in conference play, they've only scored 19 points per contest. That includes a game against Arkansas. They let Southern Illinois, an FCS squad, roll up 629 total yards against them. I think if South Carolina can't score on this team, there isn't another team on their schedule outside of maybe Chattanooga they could score on. I think South Carolina, if there's a game for you to get healthy offensively, it's this one, and you basically need to take the carbon copy of the game plan you had against Tennessee, use it against Ole Miss, you hang half 100 on the Rebs.
Well, I don't know about a half 100, but I tell you what, offensively, South Carolina has to score enough points, but you know, you take a little bit of a page, not completely, but a little bit of page out of Wofford's book. You know, the other offense can't score if they don't have the football. So I think this is one of those key games where South Carolina time of possession is going to be very interesting in this ball game. Not only because they'll be able to run the football, but also Ole Miss, because of their offense, they're a rhythm offense. If you keep them on the field for 8-9 minute drives, that offense loses its rhythm. And so the key point for South Carolina is time of possession and be bullied with running that football.
Yeah, they've got to be careful. The temptation in a game like this is to stand there and throw the ball all over the field because that's pretty much what your opponent's going to try and do. And you've got to be careful. I think you're right that their best formula is what they did against Tennessee, is run the ball, don't put the game on the right arm of Jake Bentley. Be very smart in how much you use the passing game.
If he throws more than 20 passes in this game, the Gamecocks are in trouble.
All right, when we come back, Mike Morgan will join us. Morgan on the move, Thursday night visit from the busy one here on Sports Talk. Be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Live.
Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. I was doing the old you, me.
I was looking at you.
Yeah, I know. We are here at Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar in Surfside Beach. We thank you so much for being out with us. Again, our second hour is going to feature a lot of Coastal Carolina content. We're going to talk to both coordinators. Also, we're going to talk to basketball coach Cliff Ellis, whose team gets underway next week, and also the director of athletics, Matt Hogue, about just kind of what we were talking about in the opening segment, the continued progression of this athletic program into the FCS level, the Division I level, and also getting themselves in as a football school in this area, which is certainly strive for that. We can also talk about the decision by the folks at Coastal Carolina to host the Touchstone Energy Bowl, which we told you yesterday first on Sports Talk, that has been approved by the folks at the NCAA. They got their waiver to make that happen as they come on in here and get themselves a nice venue because of the fact that they could not use the field that they normally would use because of the movement of the game, because of what happened with the hurricane. It is now time, Corn, to welcome in part of the reason why we're here, at least our host, our gracious host, Mary Beth, who is here with us from Dagwoods, Corn.
Mary Beth Lamaralia.
Hi, guys.
Is
How are
with
ya?
us. Let's sing that last name one time.
Lamaralia.
Lamaralia.
You
She's a very
got
nice
it.
Italian lady, which is nice.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us out here.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to Dagwoods, where we always have a good time, and we love that you're here.
Listen, any place that will host the bad boy, Alan Smothers,
You
has
know,
got
we
to
have
be
patience.
a great place, all right? Because he just doesn't go anywhere.
No, he just doesn't go anywhere. And we have a great time on Saturday
Yeah.
mornings. Oh, God, we have a ball with him.
And this place is packed. We came in here about an hour and a half ago. It was already full.
We have a great local following here. Everyone wanted to come out and have a good time and come see you guys. And I hear the coaches from CCU are coming. So
Yes.
that's amazing.
I've been told to ask you, what am I supposed to eat here? Because apparently I have become the new food expert here at Sports Talk.
Oh, well,
What am I supposed to eat here?
we're Dagwoods. We're
Yes.
known for our sandwiches. So we make homemade bread. We have award-winning chili, which we have the chili cook-off coming up. pretty
Oh,
soon,
sweet.
too.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
that's pretty cool.
It's good weather for it.
It is good weather for it. We're waiting, on Sunday we do that down in Merle's Inlet. However, we also have a wide variety of sandwiches. Our burgers are awesome.
Mm.
I mean, I've been working here for 12 years, eating here 5 days a week. You can't
Uh-huh.
go wrong.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, John, our owner, he came up with this fun, fresh menu that pretty much anything is homemade on it. So it's
Ooh.
good.
Besides the food, of course, if you're a sports fan, you've got, I don't know, dozens of television sets throughout the facility.
yeah,
You
we have
can't go anywhere
54.
and not watch something.
Yeah.
I see the Beach Boy. That's the one I think I'm going to get. That's
Okay.
probably the one.
The Beach Boy, that's a nice big jumbo sandwich.
You have to have blonde hair to eat that, don't you?
I gotta look like Trevor Lawrence, basically. Is
Oh,
what I
yeah.
have to look like.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Mary Beth,
You guys get a huge Chanticleer following in here as well?
We do a lot of CCU. I mean, it's our
Yeah.
local college, so we get some people in here watching the games. I'll tell you what, when they won the baseball series a couple years ago,
Right.
it was the loudest I ever heard in this building. We were raising the roof. It was so much fun. But yeah, so we get a lot of people in here watching the games.
What's your hours of operation on a typical week?
Typical week, we open every day.
Yep.
We're only closed a couple days a year. So we are open every day at 11 a.m. Our kitchen closes at midnight every night. So. Oh, hey.
Hello, feedback.
I'm having a little good time on this mic, aren't I?
Well, we are so happy that you had us
we're
out
happy.
here tonight. And thank you so much for everything. And we're looking forward to having the Coastal coaches joining us in hour number 2.
Yeah, I know.
And we'll be back to see you guys quite a bit because I've been here many times over the years. It's
awesome.
terrific.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, and this is going throughout the whole state, which is amazing.
Absolutely. We told people all over the state to come by and see you.
That's
right here on U.S. Business 17.
In Surfside.
Not too far from what? Ocean Lakes Campground?
Yeah, Ocean Lakes is right down the road.
Yeah, that's always a good
landmark
map spot to use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thanks for coming out
Thank
from
you.
Columbia. We appreciate that. We love having you here, and I can't wait to give you some dinner.
We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Mary Beth Lamaralia here with us on Sports Talk, manager here at Dagwood's Sports Bar and Deli. We recommend it highly, and it looks like everybody's having a great time tonight. We wish our next guest was here with us, but we'll talk to him on the phone. Mike Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk, and it's good to have Mike back with us for another visit.
He's brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, the mortgage team that was well equipped to help you through the mortgage process, foundersfcu.com/mortgage, and by BP Skinner Clothiers. Everybody brings their suits and shirts and gets them from Brent Skinner. Located in the vista of wherever you are, Brent will come to you, bpskinnerclothiers.com.
All right, Mike, thanks for the patience. We're a little squeezed here, but I've got a few minutes with you and do want to ask you, you've seen Ole Miss, and South Carolina's going down there this weekend to face that high-powered offense, though, as Will pointed out accurately here a little while ago, in SEC competition, not as high-powered. I mean, the numbers are skewed somewhat by some of the non-SEC teams that they have faced. Can South Carolina hang with this team offensively? Will they have to hang with them offensively?
First off, real quick, I sense the synergy between you and Mary Beth. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be a matchmaker here, but there's something special in the air there. But to your question, I think
she's quite awesome. I'll just say that. She's quite awesome.
Yes, I'm right there with you. As for Ole Miss offensively, look, yeah, they didn't score a ton of points in Alabama. Nobody does, but they can certainly score points on a South Carolina defense that has not exactly been dominating this year. It's still an offense that's very concerning. Tamu is a very talented quarterback. 2 first-rounders at wide receiver, 1 first-rounder on the offensive line at left tackle. So, yeah, you should be concerned about that. But by the same token, defensively, they can't stop anybody. So if you're Carolina and you go into that game and you can't put up 30 on Ole Miss, you just can't put up 30. They have all kinds of issues on defense, and that just is not going to get better anytime soon.
So you're in Knoxville. You get to see the Vols this weekend after they took that little beating from the Gamecocks last weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was a painful loss for them because obviously it's a winnable game, and I don't know how many more they have left on the schedule. But when you watch them and you break them down, there's a lot to like about their backs and Chandler and Jordan. You could certainly do worse than Callaway and Jennings at wide receiver. And Garantano is at least looking like a capable SEC quarterback. But their problem is the offensive line, which you saw front and center there in Columbia. When they lost Trey Smith, you lost one of the best offensive linemen in the league, and the rest of their O-line is in shambles. So it's a makeshift O-line that is going to continue to have issues. But look, the goal for them is simple. Just get to 6 wins, squeak into a bowl game. Jeremy Pruitt is a great salesman. He'll sell that so the cows come home. They just need a couple of more wins, and they'll be able to have something to hang their hat on, which obviously they have not had much of anything to hang their hat on now for nearly a decade.
Obviously, the viability, Mike, of the last, or at least the first set of rankings is kind of minimal, but do you qualm with any of the selections from the College Football Playoff Committee to start?
No, not at all. It's a moot point whether or not we put LSU at 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, if they beat Alabama and they take care of business the rest of the way, they're going to be in the playoff. And if they don't, they're out. So to get all worked up about where they are, it's like spending, a bunch of hot air debating in basketball whether or not a team should be a 1 or a 2 seed. At the end of the day, you're going to play each other anyway. It's not a huge difference. So I didn't have any major issues. I think it's pretty predictable where we're heading in terms of what teams are in there, what the key matchups are. And of course, we got two of those this weekend with Bama, LSU, and Georgia, Kentucky. And then what normally is a monkey wrench in Notre Dame, I really don't even think that's controversial. If they win out, they're in. If they lose a game, they're out. So I don't think we're heading towards a real a firestorm of controversy when this regular season wraps up.
All right, got about 30 seconds. The two big SEC games, USC, Ole Miss notwithstanding. Who do you see emerging? Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, Kentucky. The two heavyweights or the two surprises?
The two heavyweights. I don't see LSU able to score enough points to beat Alabama, and Alabama is going to score 25 on anybody. And I don't see LSU getting to 25 on Alabama's defense. For that reason, I go Bama. I think Kentucky's a terrific story, and I'd love to see a great game in Lexington. Defensively, they've got what it takes. What scares me is if Benny Snell does not have a breakout game, they have no chance because I don't have enough confidence in Terry Wilson to lead the way throwing the football, so I'd have to give the edge to Georgia.
All right, Mike, thank you, man. Enjoy your weekend in Knoxville. Back in a moment.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we continue here on a Thursday. We are from Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar, Surfside Beach, South Carolina. I'm going to have that Beach Boy, whether you think I can or not with that, with the hair or not. But we go from the hair to the man who used to have hair, Steve Tannehill, and Coach Chuck Reedy. It is our weekly edition of the Coach and the Quarterback as we get you ready here for that on Sports Talk.
Yeah, Chuck, he's got hair because he's got like special medications and stuff like that.
Propecia
to keep it in place. And we got Coach and the quarterback with us. Oh, we're still trying to get them.
Oh, apparently
we don't have either one yet.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Got to give us more time to set the stage. We're at Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar in Surfside Beach, and the folks from Coastal Carolina are starting to trickle in. We'll have Matt Hogue here at the top of the hour. We'll have the coordinators, Jamie Chadwell and Marvin Sanders, with us at the bottom of the next hour. And in between, basketball coach Cliff Ellis will be here. They've got a big event called it's their tip-off events. What are they calling it?
Hoopla.
Hoopla over
That's very creative.
At the HTC Center, I take it tonight. So they're getting ready for the start of basketball season, which comes at us furiously starting next week.
It does. And speaking of the HTC Center, I saw this, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but, they're doing a tournament in Myrtle Beach beginning this year, one of those exempt tournaments, the Myrtle Beach Classic, largely off of the success of last year's Puerto Rico tip-off that was moved to Myrtle Beach, if you may remember from that. And they actually just, according to John Rothstein of CBS Sports yesterday, put out the teams for next year's Myrtle Beach Invitational 2019. Villanova, Baylor, Utah, Mississippi State, Memphis, Middle Tennessee, Ohio, and, of course, the hometown Coastal Carolina Chanticleer. So they'll be a part of that very, very packed field.
That's very good. I mean, you've got a tournament there. You've got a tournament in Charleston during the holidays now that ESPN puts together. All right, we do have the coach and the quarterback with us. We were just commenting, Coach Reedy, on your hair and how you are able to maintain that rather large amount of hair there, even at, your kind of advanced age.
Where did that come from?
Somehow we were talking about hair, and it just dawned on me. Will made a comment about Steve Tannehill's former hair.
Yeah.
And it made me think about your current hair. So, anyway.
Well, I've never been told that I had a lot of hair, but I appreciate it.
Well, the last time I saw you, you did. Maybe being in the restaurant business, you've lost a lot of hair now. I don't know.
No, I've still got the same amount.
All right. Hey, Steve, let me have it about Florida State and Clemson.
I mean, I told you so. I mean,
You're so humble when you want to stick it to somebody, Go ahead, fire away. Give me your best shot.
Florida State is not very good. I don't expect that bad of a blowout, but good gracious.
I mean, I only let them have it on Monday, but I've had a very, very good time watching everybody else kind of take their shots over the last couple of days.
Well, Chuck, as far as Clemson goes, in that performance, I know now Florida State obviously is in a world of hurt. They got players. I don't think there's any question. They got players here and there, but they don't have a real good team right now. But what did you think of Clemson's performance and just the way they handled things down there?
I mean, I don't know that you can have a better performance than what Clemson had. I mean, they're hitting on all cylinders right now. And, we said it last week, and I'll say it again. Best thing ever happened, was when they gave the reins to Trevor Lawrence. And, I mean, now, you've got a football team that can beat you throwing the ball, they can beat you running the ball. And we've known they had a great defense all year. So, I mean, they're right time.
Coach, you still with us?
Hello?
Yeah, you still with us, Coach? Sounds like we're
I'm
breaking up there a little bit.
In North Carolina, so I hope I don't lose you.
Yeah, we got you. Steve, South Carolina's got to go and probably win a shootout against Ole Miss this weekend. What did you think of the game plan they used against Tennessee and how they just stuck with the run and eventually made the run work for them against the Vols?
Well, I thought we did run the ball very well, but I thought overall, especially after the first quarter, so played really well. You get the pass back there, and I thought Jake played a heck of the game. especially as the game went on. But anytime you can run the ball like that, you got a chance to win. And I will say this about our team: we're not the greatest team, but man, they fight and they seem to win those close games. And that was a big win for us, especially how it happened at home. Maybe this week, early start down there with 11 o'clock their time, 12 o'clock our time. But this is a game I think we should win. Ole Miss is pretty bad on defense, and if we can run the ball and make Ole Miss press a little bit on offense, I think we can get another SEC win for sure.
Steve, looking at this matchup from South Carolina's perspective, I still think that Ole Miss's defense is largely absent. And I think that their offense, in my mind, is a bit overrated and overvalued by what they've done against very weak competition and a largely absent non-conference schedule. Do you think South Carolina could be on the verge of its best offensive output, at least in conference play, against a team that, again, looks largely weak on the defensive side of the football?
Well, I mean, I think they had a chance to put up some good numbers, but the main thing is, we cut out the turnovers and we catch the ball and keep running the ball. I think we got to keep Ole Miss off the field. They are capable. They got really good wideouts, and I know they haven't played as well against the better competition, but they're still talented on offense, and going there and the early start, a lot of factors maybe help Ole Miss a little bit. But if we can run the ball on offense like we did last week, I think it takes Ole Miss out of their game a little bit, and they can their offensive guys kind of stand on the sidelines and not make it such a giant shootout. I think that's the best scenario for us.
Coach Reedy, I don't know if there's anything like football DNA, but everybody's in love with the high-powered offenses now. But it seems did we lose?
Sounds like somebody dropped there. Go ahead, Pro.
Yeah, I was going to ask Coach that it seems in South Carolina's DNA historically, even with Spurrier had to learn that you ran the football in South Carolina and you threw it off play action. Has South Carolina now gone back to its true DNA, running the football, being stubborn with the run, and making the play action more effective?
Let's go with Steve. If he's still with us, Steve, can you answer that?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
I mean, you got to run the ball, obviously. Being able to use play action is vital for success, unless you're just going to be truly a bred football team. But if you go back and see how Spurrier, especially when he was at Florida, they always had a good back, and they always ran the ball. But running the ball can help, especially we have two really good backs. And even the third back came in at the end of the game and gave us a start. So I think running the ball and using the play action is a great way, unless you're going to be a truly great football team. And then, obviously you have a little bit different personnel and one back sets. And I know we have a lot of one back. We use the tight end a lot and move him around and use him as a fullback, which really creates matchup problems for the defense trying to just play personnel.
Steve, you feel like when South Carolina is able to get by throwing the ball less than 20 times a game like they did against Tennessee, that's a good thing in this particular case?
Well, Tennessee was in two deep safeties about the whole time, so that gave them the run. And if you're going to run that RPO stuff and they play with two high safeties, I mean, the run is there. So I don't know that throwing it. I think our wideouts are our best players. I know we've had some tough drops, but I think our wideouts are the explosive guys. So, I'd like to see maybe 30 and 30 a game. If you can get 30 runs and 30 passes or something to keep it around 50-50, I think is the way to go.
All right, hang on, guys. We got Chuck back with us, Coach Reedy, so we'll continue after the break with the coach and the quarterback here on Sports Talk. We are in Surfside at the Dagwoods Deli and Sports Bar, and the folks from Coastal Carolina are coming in. They'll be with us in hour number 2. Back in a moment.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
You know, it's funny, Corn, when we were talking with the great Mary Beth here at Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar in Surfside Beach, she neglected to tell us she's an award-winning member of the Dagwood staff.
Mary Beth Lamaralia, got to say that name fast, won this year from the governor, the state of South Carolina, Hospitality Employee of the Year Award.
But she's bashful. She didn't want to brag about it, but we'll brag on her because they're very, very hospitable to us.
So all cheese sticks tonight are half price. Can I say that?
No.
Oh.
Till 7, they're $5. So you got about 12 more minutes if you come by here on Business 17 in Surfside Beach here on Sports Talk. We are still chatting with the coach and the QB, Chuck Reedy, Steve Tannehill. All right, Chuck. So when I was sitting in the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, I heard Bobby Petrino say that he thought his offense was going to be better, despite the fact that Lamar Jackson left the team, graduated, went to the NFL, and they brought in this guy, Puma Pass. Is there any evidence to the fact that that could have been true at any point in time, or does that just all sound like a bunch of, pardon the pun from his former job, hogwash?
Bobby Petrino does not have a lot of credibility in the coaching profession at all, and that statement certainly has turned out not to be true. I mean, they may be the worst team in the league.
I wouldn't say you were wrong to accuse that. They don't have a league win.
I remind everybody that the spring after the departure of Jadeveon Clowney and Taylor from USC's defensive front, that Lorenzo Ward infamously said that they'd be better on defense the next year with the players they had coming back. We saw how that worked out. By the way, Chuck, I don't know if you realize this, but a week ago tonight in Blacksburg, Virginia, they played a football game and they dedicated it to you.
I know. I mean, hey, I'm all over that now.
Did you know that? Did you know that?
Hey, they did not throw a pass.
No, they threw one. They threw one pass.
And what was Bud Foster thinking? I mean, I loved it. Loved it.
0-1 throwing the football, but they rushed for 465 yards. That's right up your alley.
Oh, it's right up my alley. And, I hate to disagree with Steve, but, this 50-50 stuff, I don't go along with that. If South Carolina can throw the ball under 25 times a game, they'll win every week.
What did I just say? I literally said if Jake Bentley throws more than 20 passes in this game, they're in trouble. Am I wrong?
You're right. You're right.
But Steve, and Chuck too, but Steve, I mean, they've got to prevent this game from becoming a track meet, right? They cannot get into an up and down the field type of game with Ole Miss because they will lose, because Ole Miss is just that much better on offense, wouldn't you say?
I don't know that they're better on offense. I think they're different, and then they want to go so fast. But I definitely think winning the football this week is important to us winning the game, and I don't want to the whole game, and especially a team that's going to go fast. If you can get a team that's going fast 3 and out some, and that helps your defense. So I think it's kind of going to see how it goes, but I definitely like running the ball. And one other note, I watched the Carolina game last week at Dagwood there at Surfside Beach. There's a lot of Gamecock fans in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this place draws fans of a lot of different teams, especially the coastal clan that comes down here.
Just saw Dr. Tiger from Myrtle Beach on the Clemson side, too.
All right, real quick before we let you go, let's talk another moment about Clemson and Louisville. And Chuck, the Tigers are favored by 38.5. They have beaten teams in the month of October by a ridiculous margin. I think it's an average of like 54-7. I ran the numbers earlier today. Ridiculous spread in their 3 games in October. I know the competition hasn't been great, but you got to credit what they're doing and how well they're executing on offense and defense.
Yeah, like I said earlier, they're playing at a very, very high level right now, and they're not going to be challenged, I don't think, anywhere down the rest of their schedule. Now they're going to have a letdown at some point where they don't play as well. But there's nobody that they're going to play that's good enough to beat them. Boston College being the only one that has any, I think, a remote chance of maybe challenging them a little bit with playing up there.
And Steve, before we let you go, and we're a month away from the Palmetto Bowl. You saw South Carolina beat Tennessee, and you've seen what Clemson's been doing. So, do you see the Gamecocks moving any closer to Clemson and having a chance to pull off what would be an upset up there Thanksgiving week? I'm sure the Gamecocks will be double-digit underdogs going in, but you see anything from South Carolina at this point that leads you to think the Gamecocks can win that game?
Well, that game can go either way, a lot of times, but I'm not sure this time. Clemson's on a different level right now, and we have yet to win. Have we won 2 games in a row? So I don't think we have won 2 games in a row. So I mean, we're not there yet. But you never know. There's some football left, and football's a lot of momentum. But the way Clemson's playing right now, man, it's pretty impressive. And that young quarterback, it looks like that might have been the right move.
Yeah. How many years away is South Carolina from beating Clemson again, Steve?
Well, it depends on. We're playing a lot of young guys right now. You look on that roster, and a lot of young guys are playing a lot of snaps, and that's good. But until we get some super depth on the defensive line, and we're not there yet, and you never know. But I've been pulling as hard as I can for Carolina, but based on what we've seen so far this year, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, Chuck. How many years away is South Carolina from beating Clemson, in your opinion?
Well, Lions will be there for 3 more years. So after that, they may have a chance.
Wow.
3 more years.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you'll forget he is the truth now. He is the truth.
Yeah, but South Carolina is recruiting a lot better. They are getting better, but Clemson's also recruiting very well, and Clemson's got an awful lot of good young players as well. And I think as long as Trevor Lawrence is there, I mean, they're going to be hard. They're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, there's a problem. Clemson doesn't necessarily have a ceiling with where they are. They haven't hit it. If they're looking for it, they haven't hit it. And South Carolina is still far enough back to where they're not close, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Guys, we thank you very much. Great stuff tonight. Thanks for hanging in there with us on the phone. Steve, have a great weekend. Everybody get down to group therapy and look at Steve's nice picture there when he beat the Tigers that time. He's still proud of that. And everybody go to a Subway somewhere in the state and then over to the Comeback Shack and make Chuck even richer than he is now. His money from Baylor is about to run out, so he needs to be replenished, right? Huh?
Yeah, it's been gone. I can tell you that.
Hey, you interested in the Maryland job by chance?
I need all the help I can get.
Are you interested in the Maryland job by chance?
No. I'm happy right where I am.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Polite decline. That's a polite decline out of Chuck.
Well, listen, I mean,
I wouldn't want it.
He's sort of in that stage of life where he just wants to kick back and enjoy what he's doing and not worry about chasing around teenagers and begging them to come play football for him and making them. Let's face it, that's what makes great coaches, right? Great players. Shall we do recruiting here before the break?
If we have the time.
Well, going into the break here, I can tell you that defensive lineman Jaden McKenzie comes from the same school as Dexter Lawrence out of Wake Forest, North Carolina. He's 6'4", 280.
Is he big? Is he strong?
Big guy.
Big.
He likes Clemson. He's been there a few times. Hasn't been there this season, but he's been there in the past. Likes Clemson. They like him a good bit. He has been to Wake Forest and North Carolina for games. He's got officials set up with those two as well. He said they are recruiting him the hardest of all the schools. He's a Katrina survivor. He was living in New Orleans, and the family had to move, and they ended up in the Raleigh area of North Carolina. So keep an eye out for him ending up possibly at Clemson or somewhere else down the road. All right, top of the hour break is coming up. I see Cliff Ellis is here. Always good to see the coach. Jamie Chadwell's here, and others from Coastal Carolina will be here as well when we come back.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We are back, Sports Talk, hour number 2 on a Thursday night from Surfside Beach. We don't let the weather mess with us here at the beach. We're having a great time indoors at Dagwood's Deli and Sports Bar. It's time to visit with the good folks from Coastal Carolina. We've got Cliff Ellis coming up in a couple of minutes. We've got the football coordinators after him, but right now we lead it off with the athletics director, Matt Hogue, longtime friend of Sports Talk, former broadcaster, play-by-play announcer, but now he, pushes a pen and writes the checks and things like that. It's good to see you again.
You too. Good to see you guys. Glad to have you back on the grandstand.
Feel good to have the headset on again?
Yeah, it's always comfortable. It's like they say, riding a bike, right?
Yeah. Do you ever want to just kind of break into play-by-play sometime when you're sitting in the booth watching the game?
There's certain days I would love to, yes.
Let's talk about your season because And we had you on a few weeks ago to talk about when you guys were on the road and away from home for so long. But it's got to be a real credit to this coaching staff to hold this season together, considering everything they've had to go through to be 5-3 at this stage of the campaign.
No question, and that's one of Joe's hallmarks is you prepare for everything. You're ready when it happens. You know how you're going to react. You know what decisions you're going to make in those situations. So. We were already working well in advance. I think, as I'd mentioned to you, going back when we had talked the previous time, kind of collecting all of the information, utilizing our resources on campus so that when the time came that we had to make a decision, we knew what we would do and where we would go and kind of wait it out as long as we had to.
Working with Joe Moglia, and I know now he's been at Coastal long enough to put his fingerprints all over everything with the football program and beyond. But now that you've had a few years to work with him in your position, what's he like behind the scenes when you need something for the program or he needs something? What's he like to negotiate with, so to speak?
Well, Joe's very genuine. I think what you see with him and when you interact with him is very much the way he operates. There's really not a lot of veneer to how he does what he does. But I think, Phil, the one thing that's remarkable about Joe, when you do have a chance to spend as much close time with him as I have over the last 4 years, is just he sees things from a perspective that no one sees things. And that's one of those gifts. I really believe that. The way he sees how you solve a problem or the way that he kind of envisions things developing. You can't really, teach something like that. And a lot of folks aren't gifted with that kind of quality. And I think that's where he's so good. And then he kind of puts forth an execution. We're going to go get this done. We're going to solve it. We're going to find a way. No matter what it takes, we're going to keep searching to find a way. And then you envelop that, of course, in the BAM philosophy with, taking responsibility for your actions and moving forward in terms of accountability. And what I think people miss about that is it's not just that you take accountability, but if you're relying on another person to get something done, that still extends to you as a part of that accountability. That's the piece that I think is very unique that the average person doesn't understand. But as you spend time with him, it starts to make a lot of sense, and that's how you get things done quickly, efficiently, and effectively.
Sure. Talk with Matt Hogue, the Director of Athletics, Coastal Carolina. We're here on the Palmetto Pigskin Preview Live from Dagwoods and Surfside Beach. We talk about this all the time with your programs. It's a relatively young university, and for a university that has moved into the Sun Belt, moved into the Division I FCS level, I mean, that is about as accelerated a particular timeline for you guys as any we've really seen. How would you assess where you guys are with respect to the continued transition?
I think we're really pleased where we are. You start out just the transition into the Sun Belt that started in the summer of 2016. So we've had, a little over 2 years in the league, very competitive league. Last year we won 5 total team championships, the most in the league. We've been in the top 4 in the Commissioner's Cup rankings each year. So we've stepped right in and made an impact in the Sun Belt. From an FBS standpoint, we've already completed our 2-year transition, which this year, of course, we're officially bowl eligible. And, that transitional period is now behind us. So we're officially in the FBS ranks. So it is pretty remarkable when you stop and think about where we've come. As you mentioned, Coastal was founded in 1954. So in less than 70 years, you've seen an institution become a major player, not just athletically, but, globally. We've got doctoral degrees now, more master's degree. I used to know how many master's degrees we have, but we have so many now, I lost count. So we have become a force in terms of economic impact, in terms of educating individuals, and certainly athletics ties into that. And that's the brand that you put a lot of those things behind. So it's been an exciting ride. And I think in the 21 years I've been at Coastal, there's never been a time when you don't start off a lot of sentences like, boy, this is an exciting time, or we've got something new going on, because it's constantly been developing before our eyes. And, one day when I can kick back in the rocking chair, it's going to be nice to look back and see this period and what we were able to accomplish.
Well, Matt, it's good to talk to you again. I wanted to ask you.
I've heard that guy before.
It's your old homie.
I wanted to ask you about going to the Sun Belt. And not so much, I know it's an adjustment financially, but as far as your coaches and student athletes are concerned, how have they adjusted or told you they've adjusted to the extended travel they have to go through now?
Yeah, you're right. That's a big component. We're in a conference that does stretch from Texas to the Carolinas now. But I think some smart things have been done by the league in terms of working with divisions. For instance, right now we're in a football division, so we play everybody in the East, and you cross over to the West. Volleyball is in divisions, so we're going to be going to divisions in basketball. So it does mitigate that travel a little bit. You don't have to get on an airplane quite as much. But I think it's been an adjustment where we probably see it, and where I think our coaches have to be mindful and our student athletes have to be mindful is when you get into some of the 2-game trips. Basketball has dealt with this. They'll continue to this year, where you may go to play Texas State and Texas Arlington in one trip, and that becomes 5 days, and you have to condition yourself appropriately to handle that. We see that in some of the other sports as well. And I think, it's a great question, Pro, because everybody sort of focuses in on football. Football is pretty simple. You're going to fly out on Friday. You probably don't miss any class. You're going to play your game on Saturday. You're going to get on the plane and fly home right after, as everybody does. But when you get into these other sports, that's where it does get a little bit more complicated with the travel, and you have to be smart how you handle it.
Homecoming weekend, Appalachian State, a team you've never beaten. Big-time opponent because they were nationally ranked for the first time earlier this season. You're sitting on 5 wins. You're 1 win away from getting bowl eligible.
Right.
Now, this is a program that before you made it to the FBS level, at the FCS level, you made deep runs in the postseason in that tournament. What would it mean to make a bowl game compared to what you guys did at the FCS ranking and winning some playoff games? Or what would it mean to make a bowl game?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Phil. They're equally significant achievements, but I think what you get with a bowl game that maybe you don't get a little bit with the playoffs, and you see this even in TV ratings and so forth as well, is people watch. There are eyeballs on those games, and sometimes cynically you may hear someone say, well, that's not really the case, but the reality is the numbers bore that out. ESPN wouldn't own and operate as many as they do if that wasn't the case. And, you get national exposure at a time when a lot of people have some free time on their hands. They're watching games, they're paying attention, and it just simply elevates your national brand. And for us to be in the conversation, even just bowl projections now.
Yeah.
And the schools you're aligned with and the club that you're sort of discussed among, that's immeasurable. You can't buy that kind of attention, and we all know that's what drives applications to the school and donors and giving from your alumni and gives them a sense of pride. I mean, that's a big part of what athletics does, and I don't think it would be any different with the bowl game. And I think, the bowl system gives you maybe a little more bump in that regard than perhaps you would get in other situations.
So Shreveport in December for you would be
we'll take anything right now. Hey.
I've been to that bowl. You don't want to go to that bowl. I'm telling you, you don't want to
go
to that bowl.
Well, we start with the 5 tie-ins that the Sun Belt has.
Right,
so
right,
we know
right.
Those are some good spots. You've got Orlando, you've got Tucson, New Orleans. So I think Carl Benson and his crew have done a great job of lining up some nice games.
Well, listen, good luck the rest of the year. Have a great weekend for homecoming weekend. You've got basketball tonight with the Hoopla Lala, whatever you call it. Hoopla over at the HTC Center.
That's right.
So you can be heading over there, as Cliff will as well after we talk to him. Thank you for coming by. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely appreciate it. Glad you guys are down here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Matt Hogue, Athletics Director here at Coastal Carolina, doing a great job. Still got to be one of the youngest ADs in the country, though. He is aging quickly. This job will certainly do it to you, no question. Sort of like mine. All right, we'll be right back.
Oh, is that a fact?
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We are in a basketball mode right now. We're going to talk to the head coach of Coastal Carolina, Cliff Ellis, in a moment. Barton currently leads Clemson 14-12. That is the final public exhibition. Don't laugh. It can happen to you. It happened to South Carolina. They lost to Augusta. So you never know what these things.
At least that was Augusta. You know,
this
we've heard
Barton.
of Augusta.
We didn't even know where Barton was.
Had to look it up.
So there you go. So we'll see whether that takes it. It's very, very early. It's like 7 minutes into the game. Yeah. But this is one of my favorite treats of coming here to the Grand Strand because this guy, I think he is either knows or has forgotten more basketball than you and I will ever know.
No question about that. And I've had the great fortune of knowing him and covering him for, over 30 years, from his Clemson days through his days at Auburn and now here at Coastal Carolina. Cliff Ellis is joining us. And you've got a function coming up over at your arena in a little bit.
Yep, 9:10. Hoopla.
Hoopla.
Yeah, most people have a Midnight Madness. We do it a little bit different. We do it right before the season starts, and we get the student body and the public and have them come out, and we just have fun. Dunk contest, three-point contest, introduce the team to the people. Women's basketball program's also there, so it's really a fun night.
Yeah.
It's a funny, and we started doing this several years ago. I think Mark Roach came up with the idea several years ago, and it worked. Yeah. I liked it better than Midnight Madness.
Yeah.
I can be home by midnight.
How's your team going to be this year?
I like my team, Bill. I do. Now, I've got 6 freshmen, and I could start 3. So we're in that process of taking a recruiting class, getting used to the Sun Belt, and trying to build it and go from there. But I've got some good freshmen, and I've got some experience. My backcourt is going to be full of freshmen, and my front court is going to be upperclassmen. So it's going to be a strange thing to kind of mesh with, but I'm excited about it. We're going to be tested with our schedule. We go back to South Carolina. We should have won last year. We should have won that game, and we didn't. We've got Tulane. We got College of Charleston, who's really good. Wofford, really good. All of them on the road, so got some tests.
So how, if you have a front court that is mostly experience laden and a back court that lacks the experience, who takes charge on the floor for you?
Well, in my system, the point guard is huge. And the good thing is, with the new rules in the summertime, you get 8 hours in the summertime with your guys. That's not much, but when you've got freshmen, it is a wonderful thing. And I think it's important for everybody with all this one and done stuff that's going on. I mean, it's not like it was, Phil, when we go back to those days at Clemson where guys stayed.
And you could develop.
Yeah, you could develop them. Those days have long been gone with the power schools. With us, we get to keep them a little bit longer. But taking these guys and really teaching them the system, and I really try to get with our point guards and let them know what we've got to do and build that system around them.
Cliff Ellis visiting with us here, the basketball coach at the Coastal, coming off a 14-18 season, 8-10 in the league. What have you found to be the greatest challenge to lift your program up to the Sun Belt level?
Well, recruiting is the big thing. The one thing that with the transition period when we changed and went to the Sun Belt, we made the move at August. So we were still in a Big South mode, and we needed to get Sun Belt recruiting in. So change it. And no matter what level you're at, if you're at Clemson and Auburn, you're going after certain players.
Sure.
And at Coastal Carolina, we want the same player that Clemson and Auburn wants or South Carolina wants. But it's very difficult to get that player. So you shoot for that. And if you're in the Sun Belt, you're in a top 10 league. In the Big South, it was a lower level.
Right.
And how we were able to become so dominant in the Big South, because when I came here, it was all about Winthrop. And then when we left, it was about Coastal Carolina. But we had some transfers from South Carolina, like Chad Gray, Mike Holmes, guys like that made a difference in our team. And we picked up some transfers and got some young players to buy in, and we were able to build on that. What we're selling now is the fact we're in a top 10 league. We are a program that plays the style that you're going to like to play, and we try to sell the national prominence of the Sun Belt Conference League, because if you look at the history of the league, the teams that have been successful in the past, we've had teams go to the Sweet 16. Big South never did that, so it's just a step up. Biggest challenge is recruiting and travel.
Yeah,
I mean, travel is a beast.
They spread you out quite a
No,
bit.
it's a beast.
Yeah.
So you have to, you better get your teachings in now, because I'm telling you, by the end of the season, you're going to be these are young kids and they're resilient, but they're going to be worn out.
Sure.
On the recruiting trail, do you find it tougher, Coach, as you moved up to the Sun Belt, to find shooters or that guy that can get a rebound anytime you want it?
I think the biggest difference in all levels outside of being a Power 5 league is getting the big guy. You get good guards. I think the big guys, the 6'10", 6'11", 7-footers, they're going Power 5. How many of them are out there? So you have to go down. You may have to take, or you have to take a 6'7" or 6'8" player that can be the best that he can be, that maybe is not quite big enough for the Power 5. You can get guards. You still don't get the preem guard, but there are more guards available.
Yeah.
Period. So you get that. It's those big guys where it's the toughest part.
You make the travels in state. You go to South Carolina. You go to Wofford, College of Charleston, an exempt tournament with Northern Kentucky. How do you feel about your non-con?
Well, I think it's a very tough, demanding schedule. We could probably start 3 guys in the backcourt, but I can tell you this: when conference is here, we'll be ready. I mean, we'll be ready for that travel, because it is the toughest non-conference schedule that I've had. Next
year or overall?
Here.
Okay.
Here. And it will change next year, because we'll get some of those teams back to our place. South Carolina's coming. So we get some good games. We have a great tournament.
Yep.
That is here that we get to play in once out of every 4 years. Next year, Baylor and Villanova, I know, are in it, and some other good teams. So we've got that tournament. So we've got an opportunity next year with some teams that are honestly hard to get on your schedule, because the Power 5s want to play themselves. They do not want, quote, the mid-major messing with their water, so to speak. They want to, they'd rather play themselves than play you, and they're not going to come to your place easily. But we've had friendships with people over the years that have allowed us to do that, and we've been able to have Auburn come in here, Clemson's come in here, LSU's come in here, Ole Miss has been here. Frank's bringing his team in.
If I can ask you this question, we've only got about a minute and a half with you.
Okay.
But it's the big question about college basketball, as you well know, with the trial in New York recently and the guilty verdicts. And, I mean, listen, you've been around the block a time or two, and I get mad at coaches who say, well, yeah, we knew all this stuff was going on. It's college basketball. We understood it. And my response is, well, why didn't you do something about it? So my question to you is, what's your reaction to that? Did you know this stuff was going on behind the scenes?
It's hard for me to do this in a minute.
Yeah,
I've got some major opinions on this, and we certainly can talk about it with regards to it. I go back to the 70s when I was at the University of South Alabama, and the first time that I was offered a contract from a shoe company was during that time, which was 35, 40 years ago. And at that time, coaches were not paid a lot like they are today with the universities, and the shoe companies subsidized it with the university's blessing. Well, basketball took off. Coaches started making good money, and the universities saw this and wisely enough said, we'll pay the coaches, but let us get the shoe deals. Well, through all that, kids got connected with a shoe.
Yeah.
And if you didn't wear a Nike shoe, or you didn't wear an Adidas shoe, or whatever, if that kid didn't like that shoe, that hurt you in recruiting. And so it was basically started by trying to get coaches on their staff who, would wear our shoe where the player would come. Now, it's very unfortunate what has happened, and I know you're trying
we're up against the heartbreak. I'm sorry I asked that question
so
late.
Story.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
We'll finish the story sometime, because There's people out there.
It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It does serve to realize that, we come all the way to the Grand Strand and Joe Moglia ditches us. But
he picks his appointments smartly.
But we get to do double coverage. We get two for the price of one. We get offense and we get defense here with the pigskin portion of the Pigskin Preview Live here with the Coastal Carolina Shot to Clear score.
It is great to have Jamie Chadwell, the offensive coordinator, and Marvin Sanders, the defensive coordinator, in here with us tonight at Dagwoods. This is a comfortable place for you guys. A lot of Shot to Clears hanging out here.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a good place. Not too far from home either.
That's right. Appreciate y'all coming out, and you're not too far removed from practice today, Jamie. So You guys got it going here now in a big game this weekend against Appalachian State. How do you like your matchup on the offensive side against their defense?
Well, they're pretty good on defense. Obviously, they've got I think they lead the league in most of the categories. But we've been playing well the last couple of weeks. We've had a freshman quarterback play pretty well. And our offensive line has been playing extremely well for us. We've been able to run the ball and pass a little bit. So we like our opportunity we have this weekend.
That has been the issue over the last couple of years, is getting that quarterback situation settled because of maybe performance or injury. You guys have gone through quite a number. Have you feel like you've settled with who you've got in there now?
I don't know if we've settled. We've still played a few guys this year, but I tell you one thing, that the guys that have played, they know their role. And they do a good job of that, leading the team, and that's been the bottom line. So it's been a lot better than it was last year.
Marvin, some long nights for you this week because App State, they lead the league in scoring about 40 points per game. They're good. What do you do against them defensively?
Other than pray, no. They're a very talented team. They're well coached, very disciplined. They don't make many mistakes, and so they'll capitalize on what you do wrong, but very physical up front, and they'll keep grinding at you until they hit that one or two big plays every now and again.
How do you feel your development in your first year on the defensive side has come along? Are you pleased with what you've been able to do thus far?
Well, from a numbers standpoint, you're never going to be satisfied. But as far as the mentality and the work ethic that these young men are developing this year, you're excited about it. And you're excited about the future of them because you have 8 sophomores or less starting on defense. And so it bodes well for the future. And now that those young guys have had 8 games of experience, you're ready to start growing more.
Well, Marvin very much had Corn pegged. He's the recruiting guy, but I'll ask the recruiting question of both of you. What is the biggest obstacle in trying to recruit, as you continue to get your scholarships up, as you continue to try and get players who can compete in this league? You're recruiting a different level of player than you had when you were playing in the Big South.
Well, I'll start, Jamie, because I wasn't here, of course, when they were in the Big South. But I think Coastal Carolina has so much to offer to young men in the Carolinas. It's a great institution. It's in a great area. And so I think once we get our name out there more, get these young men to campus and show them what we have to offer, I think these young men will start seeing that Coastal is a great option for them.
I agree with that. I think obviously we had a lot of success in FCS, but when we make that jump up, the player that you need is a different player. And the more that we have success here at the FBS, we show that we can win at that level. More opportunities we're on TV for people to see that surf turf and all the good things that we're doing. I think more and more people will find out what Coastal Carolina is about. And the more and more that, as Marvin said, better players will start coming our way.
Looks like your offense is starting to take shape. You're 4th in the league. You're averaging over 31 points per game. Are you seeing where your philosophy is working with Coach Mowgli and what he wants to do now since you came over from Charleston Southern as the head coach? You come over here, you work with him, and you take over the offense. You see your philosophy start to become more ingrained with what you're trying to do?
I hope so. After it better be after year 2. But we're making good progress. The thing that you want to try to do, people ask about being balanced. Our balance might not be you're throwing at 50, running at 50, and throwing at 50, but it's more so trying to score, trying to keep the ball away from the opposing offense. It helps our defense out. You make the game shorter for them, and hopefully we're able to run the football when everybody knows you can. That's what we try to do. We've had games where we've been able to do that. We had some games where we struggled, but the progress that our guys have made, not necessarily in numbers, but more so just buying into the philosophy, has been the biggest difference this year.
Sure.
Trying to get them to buy in last year as compared to the year night and day, and I think that's why we had some success.
Obviously, Coach, you want to limit or have 0 turnovers in a football game. But besides that, when you look at it, it seems now with a lot of people going fast tempo that we don't look at the stat anymore of time of possession. How important is time of possession to you?
It's extremely important. That's one of the first ones I look at. I look at turnovers, penalties, and then the time of possession, just because the time of possession doesn't guarantee you wins, but if you have the ball longer, you possess it, it gives us more opportunity to score. And then also one of our limitations is we don't have a lot of scholarships, and the void of the scholarships is really on the defensive side of the ball. So the best way I can help him out is by not putting him on the field as much. And so if we're doing that, that helps him play better defense because his guys are fresher. So that's important to us. Now, I don't go in saying, hey, we got to hold the ball for 38 minutes. But it's in the back of my mind thinking, hey, we're going to try to keep this ball away from the opposing offense.
visiting with Jamie Chadwell, offensive coordinator here at Coastal Carolina, Marvin Sanders, defensive coordinator. So, Marvin, you guys are sitting at 5-3. You're one win away from being bowl eligible, and I'll ask both of you this question. But I'll start with you. To get to 6 wins and become bowl eligible, from a recruiting standpoint, and just the progress of this team on the FBS level in just a short amount of time, what would it mean to get to that 6th win and get to a bowl game?
Well, I'm going to answer that first as a coach. I think as a coach, you don't focus on what could happen. You focus on one game at a time. App State is here, and then we'll focus on the game after that. Now, from a program perspective, get your program in its 2nd year and its infancy in the bowl eligible, I think it would do huge for recruiting. The notoriety that it brings, that they talk about us on TV, that has to attract some talented young men in the Coastal Carolina area.
Jamie, I mean, you had success. You've been in the FCS playoffs, and you know what that's like. But what about a bowl opportunity for this program?
Well, I think for our team and where our program is now, it'd be a huge step. It's something that I think within us talking, hey, there's a likelihood there, but it's, we didn't really discuss it much. I'm sure it was a goal, but we really never stated it. But to have a chance now to be close to it, I think, our kids start realizing, hey, this is a big deal. I think more importantly, if we can get there, it does put us more on a national scene. But secondly, to get that extra practice time, the 2 weeks or whatever it may be. Marvin mentioned he's got 8, sophomores or less on his defense. We've got a lot of young guys. That's more and more practice for those guys, and I think that's the benefit of a bowl game is the publicity. But 2, those young guys get. So if we can do that in year 2, that gives us a jump start going into our year 3 where we feel really good about the team we have coming back. So I think that's the biggest part of it.
Marvin, over the course of the season, where's been your biggest growth point, and what do you still need to do in order to make sure that your defense looks to where you want it to look?
Well, I think we got to play with more consistency. We play well in spurts, but as a defense, I always say this, as an offense, you can do 99 plays wrong, 1 play right and win a football game. Defense, you can go 99 right, 1 wrong and lose a game. So consistency is important. And so that's what we have to continue to work on is consistency. But the guys buying in to what we're trying to do and believing in our system, and I think that's helped us grow.
All right, got to ask you this question. Coach Mowgli is not here, so we can talk about it behind his back. What is it like in a staff meeting with Coach Mowgli when you guys are sitting around the big table? Maybe it's on a Monday morning or a Sunday after your ball game, having your staff meeting, whatever the case may be. What's it like sitting in there with him and he's kind of like talking to you?
I'll let Jamie answer that one.
You're in there too.
We're going over stock tips and where to put our money.
That is part of it, isn't it?
No. Well, no. He talks about LAF with our players, about financial responsibility, budgeting.
Right.
Coach is very focused on not necessarily who we're playing or really what we did in the game or who we're playing next. It's really more so on the mistakes. He talks a lot about fixing our problems and whether it's penalties, whether it's turnovers or tackling. What do we have to do each week to play our best? And so most of our focus after every meeting, after every practice is on Coastal Carolina and what does Coastal Carolina have to do every day to be their best. And I think that's where he's helped our team, helped us as coaches is, hey, focus on these things. You control them. We can't control anything else. And he does a great job of that.
Yeah. One thing, he really talks about as part of the BAM process is eliminating mistakes and trying to have flawless execution. And so we talk about that constantly. What are we doing wrong? How do we fix our problems? And then you test, you figure out whether or not your solution worked. And if it's not, figure out something else. And I think that's big as a coach. Sometimes you forget the good times because you're always focusing on fixing your problems. But I think it's a great process that we go through daily to make sure we're taking care of our team.
And then the last thing is, he's like, I was so thankful I don't have to talk with Cornblue.
You did him a big favor. Guys, Thank you very much. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Hope it goes well.
Thank you, guys.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
I can tell you, I can vouch for the grub here at Dagwoods. It is good.
It looks good.
This is the one thing that you can't deny about me. I know you love to get on me for the food that I always consume. Stop it. But I am an expert orderer. I'm an expert food orderer. You always look at my food and you say, "Oh my goodness."
I said earlier tonight, your strength is eating. I give you credit for that. You eat like nobody else I've ever seen, to be quite honest with you.
But
that does look good. That looks like it's got some cheese and what else is on there?
Salami, provolone, pepperoni, and you can put whatever you want on it as far as a topping. I throw a little jalapenos on there. Why not?
I want to thank the coaches for coming out again. Coach Sanders and Coach Chadwell, because they just came off the practice field a little while ago. I know it's been a long day for them, and we appreciate them coming out, and good luck against Appalachian State. Also, we didn't get a chance to talk with Matt about this, but we mentioned it last night. I did want to thank him for his work in helping with the Touchstone Energy Bowl, and because of the situation, the game being pushed back a week, and Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium already being reserved for an all-star game of a different type. It wasn't available this year, and so they go to Coastal. They had to get a waiver through the NCAA because FBS teams can't host all-star games, and the NCAA graciously, one of the few times we can say something nice about the NCAA, graciously approved the waiver, and so they will be able to move forward with the game there at the beautiful stadium. It will be really beautiful when it's all completed, Brooks Stadium, but it's already nice as it is now. So we look forward to being there for that in mid-December. It is now time on this Thursday night to talk sports and money. Sometimes it's a good subject. Sometimes it's not such a good subject. We welcome in the money coach, Fran Halloran, to Sports Talk. Not only is he the money coach, but as we mentioned earlier tonight, he continues to share the lead in our Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge, 27 up and 18 down. Coach, good evening.
Good evening, and I did not know that Pelagic was a big eater. How did I miss that?
Well, just take a look at his gut.
Shut up.
That'd be enough to tell you right
exactly that was going to be your deal.
I mean, you know.
Pelagic, we all need to get together sometime. I know a great buffet in Springdale. How about that?
I'm there.
If you're buying, I'm driving.
I'm buying. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of this go round. I will.
That sounds like a deal.
So,
I'm game.
So I know you guys are up on this whole Coach Durkin thing at Maryland, right?
Yes.
Everybody's been following this. I'm sure y'all talked about it. And what's interesting
not at all,
to me
actually.
is no, not at all.
Not at all.
5.5 million buyouts, right? 5.5 million buyouts. That got me thinking, guys, about these buyouts and how absolutely ridiculous this is getting. I mean, I think of my favorite school, the University of Notre Dame, and the fact that it cost Notre Dame about $60 million to get rid of Charlie White. It is just getting more and more ridiculous. And I started thinking about the fact that this is seeping its way. We talked the last couple of weeks about how college football is becoming more and more like, you know, the lower ranks of the NFL. And this is just another situation where money is ruling the decision-making process. And so I got to thinking today about some teams who may want to really exercise their buyout, but they can't because the numbers are so large. So here's 6 teams that I'm thinking right now would love to exercise the buyout, but because they can't, they just can't because the buyouts are so large.
I can guess one of them. Auburn, exactly right. Gus Malzahn, $32 million. They totally screwed up last year. They thought he was going to leave. He was considered on the hot seat. They should have let him go. Instead, they decided to hold on to him. $32 million to buy out his contract. That's absolutely ridiculous. How about Clemson's opponent this weekend, Louisville, Bobby Petrino, Mr. Integrity, right? $14.1 million to buy Bobby Petrino out of his job.
Yeah, but if you just wait long enough, he's going to do something that you'll be able to get out of that contract for nothing.
Yeah, but he can go with it. You can fire him with cause.
Yeah, just give him time.
I think absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But how about UNC? How about Larry Fedora? You talk about disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. His buyout is $12.2 million at the University of North Carolina. That seems just crazy to me. Illinois, Lovie Smith. What the heck does Illinois need a buyout for? I mean, they're lucky they can find anybody who wants to coach the Illini.
Well, they're paying him out the behind anyway, regardless of the buyout.
They are. His buyout is $12.6 million, which is nuts. And there's two more. One of which is, I realize they're not going to do this because it's only his first year. Florida State's buyout for Will Taggart right now is $21 million. I know they're not going to get rid of Coach Taggart. He's got a couple of years, more or less, to turn this thing around. $21 million in his buyout. But this one is absolutely insane. And this speaks to how ridiculous the money is getting in college football. Rutgers University, one of the worst programs year in and year out. Forget the little blip that was Greg Schiano's years there. But they're still a moribund program year in and year out. $10.4 million to buy out Chris Ash. Who the heck is Chris Ash?
One thing here, Money Coach. Here's one of the things, though. You got a few agents who control most of the major college football coaches. And what are they doing when it comes to talking to the ADs? They're playing one against the other. And
that's exactly right.
You want my guy here, you want my guy there. Well, sweeten this, sweeten that. And, I mean, the ADs are really kind of backed up against the wall because they all say when they're questioned about what they're paying these assistants and these head coaches, this is what the market is calling for. They're saying this is what the market price is, and they're just going along. That is their out.
It's a cartel.
What the market is calling
It's
for.
a cartel.
You know what? That's a good way to put it, Will. It is a cartel. It is exactly that. It's a racket, and it is a professional entity. It's college sports, $10 billion entity. $10 billion in college sports.
But you being a former coach yourself, you being a college coach, a former coach yourself, if you were in the position of a college coach, look, your time is fleeting unless you're just, if you turn out to be a super coach, you're going to be. But by and large, your lifespan, especially the top level, it can be very short. You got to go for the gusto and get everything you can.
I agree with you, and there's no one who served himself better than Todd Graham, who used to be the coach at the University of Arizona, right? He's not coaching this year. Because even though he wants to coach, he's not found anything. He's got a $12.3 million buyout that he's going to be earning for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I had an agent tell me. I asked him, I said, what do you do when you sit down and negotiate a coach's contract? He said, the first question I ask is, if my guy fails, what does he get? And then we work from there. And he was frank about it. Yes.
That's right. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I tried that one time with my boss. It didn't go over real well.
No,
did not go over real well.
Wasn't these bosses, was it?
It was every boss I've ever had. Like, what do you give me if that's a great position to be in, to say, well, what if I fail? How many millions do I get? How many of us are in that position to demand that?
Don't look at me.
Hey, Money Coach, tell people how they can pick your brain one-on-one.
888-779-2557, 888-779-2557. Higgins and Halloran Financial Group. We're here to get you intentional with your money. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Talk to you next week. Yep. Great stuff.
Thanks again to the folks here at Dagwoods and Surfside Beach. They've been the most hospitable hosts you could possibly ask for.
They have indeed. Yes, and I second that. Clemson is trailing Barton at the half in basketball, 48-43.
It can happen to you.
It's an exhibition game.
It can happen to you.
Marquise Reed has 15 for the Tigers. Thanks again to folks here at Dagwood. Thanks to the Coastal Carolina folks for coming out. You have a safe trip to Ole Miss.
Man, that's a long drive.
You better start pedaling. We'll see you tomorrow night back in the studios in Columbia. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, Brian. Have a great night, everybody. Hey, by the way, I heard that Avery is at a JUCO. Is it? Be right with you, Brian.
He's out there though.
Is he in Kansas? Is he in Kansas?
To Kansas, Holland maybe.
Y'all want him back? No.
No, we don't.
No. Good play. I mean, can he make it somewhere? Can he? You think he can make it somewhere?
Talent-wise, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can character.
Yeah. Jackie can put out some players. Put out some athletes. A lot of them end up in prison. Best one ever was that running back many years ago by the name. What was his name? Manning. Remember the Manning? It might have been before your time. He was like the best running back. Oh yeah, he's been doing prison time, and he got all kind of trouble. Yeah, he was. They had a team just full of. They had a kid named McCollum, a defensive lineman. Nickname was Rooster. They were nasty. Well, you know they run Lakeview High. You know, Dillon and Lakeview, they're two different schools, but Jackie's the AD for both. Lakeview's kind of a farm system, we believe. That's what people say, yeah.